We have to assume that that clock's
The
correct.
computer says 6:50.
Yeah, I would say the computer's right.
Yep. We'll let the computer decide then.
But a lot of people don't know how a diesel locomotive works. All the engine does is produce power for the generator that is delivered to the traction motors. What was HRP saying?
Well, you look at it and you'd say it'd be like.
Scary.
About 1 minute off.
We're there.
As they say, we're ready.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Meeting tonight's being recorded by CNET. We're going to go to public comments. Anybody has anything on or off the agenda they'd like to speak about, please come up and do it now.
Hi, everybody. Lenore Foster. The Fort Matilda EMS and the Fort Matilda Fire Company are going to be at Waze on Saturday for a really big event. It looks like Waze is actually combining two events into one day, so it should be crazy. But crazy good. The EMS is going to have a lot of giveaways. There'll be tours, and I'll also have information about a new fundraiser. We're going to be selling Christmas wreaths. So if anybody's interested in a beautiful Christmas wreath, let me know. Hope to see you on Saturday.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'm going to go to approval of the minutes. This will be the minutes for August 24th, 2023, Supervisors meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
A motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, spelling, anything else? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion or minutes approved of August 24th. Next up is a consent agenda. This is a ratification of the bills list for 08-1923 to 09-08-2023. General fund $33,618.27. And approval of the bills list and the general 09-23 to 09-22-23 and the general fund $12,917.55. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? Got a motion, is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any questions? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Spring Creek Watershed Commission budget. Do we have anybody here from Spring Creek Watershed tonight?
I don't believe so. They couldn't make it.
I thought they were coming.
No, they couldn't make it once the meeting needed rescheduled. So they have me kind of just filling in. The Spring Creek Watershed Commission has requested an increase to their 2024 budget of 5 cents more per capita, which would raise the total to 15 cents per capita. What this means to Half Moon is in 2024, they are requesting we pay $418.50 towards the contributions. And they're looking for a formal approval that can be taken back to their November 15th meeting.
And what was the previous year's?
Total.
The previous year's total, I don't have the total. I
It
can
was
tell you. it
two-thirds
wasn't-
of $418.
I was gonna say, it was an increase of $139.50.
Okay.
279 and some change.
All right, thank you. Good enough.
Do I hear a motion to allocate $418.50 in next year's budget? Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Port Matilda EMS budget, presentation by Steve and Cliff.
For a single seating, or can we just? What's preferred?
Probably I'd just grab a chair in the end there and both of you come up.
Okay, deal.
Otherwise the mic won't get you from back in the back.
So I'm Clifford Neal, and I'm with the Board of Directors for Port Matilda EMS.
I'm Steve Tyler with the Board of Directors for Port Matilda EMS. We had sent copies of the proposed budget for the 2024 year. I believe you all should have a copy of that.
I did see it.
It was emailed, yeah.
Yep.
So, is there any questions? All right. And part of that was the budgetary ask that Port Matilda EMS is making of the municipalities for the 2024 budget. We had calculated on a $500,000 because we felt that that's the, $500,000 to each municipality is the exact same, percentage or millage. And we sent that also, that accompanied the budget for the 42,688.89 that we were requesting of Halfmoon.
What was the total? I don't remember what the total was. The total request, municipal request you were
For
at.
all the.
For all municipalities.
76,000.
Does that include anything from Ferguson Township?
That does not. We're going to approach Ferguson and request $5,000 from Ferguson. And CNET's let the cat out of the bag, but if anybody from there is listening.
All right. Just want to ask how things are going over there. It seems like you guys are really doing a bang-up job getting out to the ambulance calls.
They're actually doing very well. Right now, we are currently purchasing a new Ford Sprinter-style ambulance that is spec'd out and is being worked on right now. We're working on potentially trying to get some funding to replace our wheelchair van as well through a grant that you guys have been helping us with, actually Amy's been helping us with. We have 11 part-time employees. We have 3 volunteers that are covering almost 100% of the calls with very few variances from that. The funding, just to clarify, that we're asking for is particularly going for salary, which we can't cover with grants. And for most of the other expenditures that we're coming up with, we're either finding people that are willing to volunteer services, or we're actually obtaining grants. Our grant writer for Port Matilda EMS has been very busy pursuing everything. We have a contracting service that's volunteered to come in and do some great renovations on the building, upgrade it, update it. We are working on some other grants for other particular items we need, a heating, air conditioning system for our station. So we're working on our end as hard as we can, I think, to try to come up with funding that isn't salary. Salary requires municipal funding.
You guys have a donation drive or anything coming up? Or is that not in the works yet for this year? I guess the end of the year, next year,
It's in the works, but it's,
in the works.
yeah.
Okay, well, I just figured we'd get it out there if you had it going.
We also have a genius fundraiser working with our servers right now. Sage has been instrumental in coming up with some creative ideas. The flocking, I don't know if any of you have been hit with the flamingo flocking that we're using.
I've heard of it, yeah.
It's actually very positively received. In fact, they're already booked through the end of November, I believe. She's coming up now with wreath sales, which are going to be another successful fundraiser, I think. And she has some incredibly ingenious ideas. So I think there's a lot of positive change going on. Most of it's through the members of Port Mill, the EMS, the board has been working hard to try to oversee and also push things along.
I gotta commend you guys for doing what you're doing. You've really turned that ambulance company around, and it's just phenomenal. Went from very low percentage to now we've got 11 part-time and 3 volunteers, and it's just, I just hope it keeps growing. Anybody from the board have any questions? Thank you very much for coming in and giving us an report. Can somebody please get back to Amy and let us know how your Ferguson Township adventure goes?
Absolutely.
All right, appreciate it. Okay, next up, we have an ordinance 2023-05, which is nuisances, to help alleviate some of the problems we've been having. So what I'm going to do is open a public hearing here at 7:11 p.m. Anybody from the public's allowed to come up here and ask questions or give testimony relating to the nuisance ordinance. Brett, do you want to just give a brief rundown on that?
Well, I'm not as familiar with it as Amy would have been. Basically, the need for the change was it adds a lot of the enforcement. That was what was lacking in the previous. We had the nuisances listed out, but we didn't really have a what we could do once they were cited. So that just cleaned it up. We had the assistance of McQuaid Blasco take a look at it. They seemingly wrote it and are happy and content and feel they could indeed enforce anything that is in this new ordinance.
Thank you, Brett. Would anybody like to come up and give testimony regarding the nuisance ordinance that's proposed? Anyone? Mr. Andrews.
Who is going to be, when you're saying enforcement, I know you have the attorneys enforcing it, but who's going to show up when you have a complaint?
We have a zoning officer.
And he will do that.
Well, she will show up. What this ordinance does gives the township the teeth to enforce the regulations. And basically what would happen is through the township solicitor, an action would be filed with the local magistrate, and then we can go from there, and hopefully it gets taken care of, and if it doesn't, we can go on to higher court levels.
Like lighting on 550 and certain
Well,
places?
that's, if it's a light pointing directly into the line of traffic, yes.
I would add, Dave, that it doesn't necessarily just provide an enforcement vehicle, it also makes it legally enforceable. In other words, it corrects things that were issues with
The nuisance ordinance was old.
and
Yeah,
so
I know.
it makes
There's
corrections to
no
it.
way to actually get something done with it.
Right.
It makes it legally viable and would stand up, you know, so.
Anybody else have anything, any testimony or questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question, a little bit about the nature of what it addresses and the possible enforcement. Because one of the things I remember was discussed last year, they're talking about many people showing up at one house for a party and disturbing the neighborhood and everything.
That would be disturbance of the peace, which
Yeah,
is,
okay, well, that wouldn't be covered by a zoning.
a
ordinance.
nuisance would be somebody throwing garbage out on their back porch and just letting it pile up.
Is there not a noise component?
There is an excessive
Public
noise
disturbance.
component. And one thing to correct is the zoning officer in this instance would not be the one enforcing this, it would be the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
Which And a side note, we will be looking for a new one once this takes effect.
But it does give it gives the township the ability to go forward with prosecution.
Correct.
What authority does a code enforcement officer have if there's a kind of control party happening?
That would be the police. I would not send a code enforcement officer out for a party. That, that could be a dangerous situation with intoxicated individuals, could be armed.
I agree, that's why I also,
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
Mr. Andrews.
I've dealt with that in the past, is, let's just put it this way. When you call the state police and it's a complaint and they have to show up, they're not happy campers. They have a tendency to do something.
Usually not. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
As far as the mechanism for reporting incidents and things, are they written in ordinance
The way you would.
Sorry, I haven't read it, so.
The way you do it is you'd call the township and we would hook you up with the proper channels and then send somebody out to investigate. So, if it's found to be justified, then, they'll get a letter, and if need be, they'll get a fine. Yes?
Is the list long of ordinance violations? I was just wondering, because I don't.
Talking about ones that we know of, or?
Well, no, I mean just that are covered. There we go, the nuisance is defined.
There's a number.
Okay.
Quite a number of nuisances.
Yeah, there's 12 major categories with some having some subcategories. And then later on in the section there is, and the enforcement's strictly outlined. It starts with a written warning, verbal, and then if it gets that far, recovery of costs through the court systems.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I couldn't remember it.
No, that's
Who
okay.
is our code enforcement officer right now?
We currently do not have one.
Okay.
That's because, to be real honest, because the code wasn't enforceable, the zoning officer did do it. But we will, at the end of the year, our contract is up with Patton Township, so we'll be looking for a new zoning officer. So we're going to either split those roles or have someone take the same role, depending upon what that person's capabilities are.
Looking for volunteers.
So if somebody had, for instance, many vehicles that were abandoned on their property.
That was like number 2 on the list.
Yeah, that's, I was reading it, trying to catch, so that is now an
Well,
enforceable.
the township always had regulations against having more than 2 abandoned vehicles on the property.
Yeah, but we've never done.
Well, I personally have gone to court about that
Uh-huh.
years ago,
Yeah,
and the judge made them clean up the cars, but did not make them clean up the junk farm equipment and some of the other stuff that was there. But, so there is precedence for that.
So does that mean maybe the ordinance needs to be broadened to include other kinds of?
Well, that's what this upgrade's all about. Well,
There's limits to.
there's a limit to what we
do.
can and can't do. When it comes to farmers, they can build barns without building code. They can do a lot of things that most people can't do. So, when it comes to farm equipment, you're probably not going to regulate that, especially not in an ag security district. So, anyone else? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:18 p.m. And we're gonna, do I hear a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-05?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ordinance approved. All right, we'll get permission to advertise the fiscal year 2024 budget meeting.
Oh, we skipped 9.
Oh, I did?
Appointment of the Ag Security.
Oh, appointment of the Ag Security Commission. Committee, possible action. All right,
Want to make a motion?
go ahead.
I move that we appoint the committee as noted in in the letter that was attached to the agenda, and to appoint Roseanne as the board's representative on that committee. Roseanne Hoover.
Do I hear a second? I'll second it. Okay, any discussion by the board? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. All right, now we're up to permission to advertise the fiscal year 2024 budget meeting.
I move to
Go ahead.
provide permission to advertise the fiscal year 2024 budget meetings.
You have dates on those?
They are attached to the agenda, are they?
They are, yes.
Are they not?
Yep. Do you want me to list them out?
Oh, I figured we'd read them out.
up, sorry.
There they are.
October 18th, Wednesday, October 23rd, Monday, Tuesday, October 24th, Wednesday, November 1st, and Thursday, November 2nd, with the times included there. We have a motion.
We'll advertise all 5 of them, right?
Yeah, probably
Yes.
won't need.
It's
Or as
cheaper
many
to
as we need.
advertise all 5 and then cancel as
Right.
needed.
You got a motion?
Had a motion to
We have a second.
advertise.
Second.
Patty seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Go ahead and advertise. Mr. John Witherite is not here tonight. He is under the weather, so I think we will wait to hear from him at another night.
Well,
We still have to
actually,
pass-
what he requested is if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, if you get them to me, I can pass them through email, and he can answer them at his leisure.
But we do have a resolution on the.
Correct.
agenda.
11 is a resolution separate from John's presentation.
Okay. Didn't know if he was gonna be here to talk about that or not, so.
Well, no, the resolution has to do with us. If you remember at your last meeting, you passed formulas for Port Matilda, Warsmark, and Alpha fire contributions. They just have to come back as resolutions
Okay,
to supersede any other agreements.
all right. Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 2023-23, which is the Port Matilda Fire Company funding?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Resolution approved. All right, next one up is Resolution 2023-24, Warsmark Fire Company funding. Do I hear a motion to approve that resolution?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moving seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That resolution's approved. Next up, Alpha Fire Company funding. This will be Resolution 2023-25. It's about time we assist them because they've been a great assistance to our fire company.
Not only that, but Brett, did you want to comment on, there is a small coverage area within the township?
There is a coverage area where Alpha has primary coverage, and that was how the formulas were
Right.
based, yes.
Something that wasn't noticed,
We didn't even know about it.
wasn't determined before,
Nope.
but
Do I hear a
Where is that?
It is over towards the Halfmoon patent line. More towards, I can't think of the name of the street.
Grays Woods area.
Right, once Grays Woods comes into the camps that are back there, the hunting camps.
Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Resolution is approved. So, next up, Resolution 23-26, Road Maintenance and Repair Policy.
All right, I can take this one. So this was basically something Brett and I had compiled a bunch of information and came up with. And really what it does is it helps us classify road issues and actually has a grading system to go along with it. That way we can actually go through and classify roads in order of importance for repair, which is, mostly what this would be used for would be your major repairs, your overlays and things like that. But it kind of gives us some real information to go back and look at.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
The surfacing that they did on Loveville Road many years ago, putting those little rubber squiggles down and,
How
spraying
long
them
ago
on
was
that?
that?
That's a long time ago.
More than 20 years or less?
Less than 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 5 to 6 if you're talking about the one I think you are. It was a fiber mat
Because we
job.
widened Loveville,
They gotta do that again? That same-
widen it?
No, just, what they did was, they clean it, they spray it, they put these rubber squiggles down, is all I can explain.
Oh.
That's a
And they
Fiber
spray it
mat
again,
fog seal.
And then put
Yeah.
a fine layer of gravel down.
So it should be what we did with Sawmill Road this year, which was the fiber mat and fog seal. So it is something that we'll look into. I want to look and explore some other options as well.
PennDOT pushes that on us.
Well, I'll tell you what, obviously I was here for a decade and a half dealing with the roads, and it works. I mean, that holds up pretty darn good.
It does seem to uphold pretty well. It is a much cheaper option than a bituminous overlay. Road surface is a little rough to begin with, but I know just Sawmill Road, it was approximately $100,000 difference from a bituminous overlay to the fiber mat. So, we're still kind of looking at different cost analysis and things. We're seeing what's the best option.
Well, I just wanted to pass it on to you, like, with the ability to look at it and see if it works.
Absolutely.
It does work.
And that's something that, there's multiple roads in the township that have been done that way, and it does seem to be holding up very well. So
And it's not slippery.
it'll be coming back in with that last document. That's going to help put a time frame to things, so we have a little better idea of how to budget going through, because there's a lot of roads that need some attention.
Always.
So,
Always.
yes.
Okay. Building maintenance and repair policy, resolution 2023-27.
So basically, this is the same type of document, just for buildings. It lets us go through and there again, do certain inspections, actually put a number rating to things. And it's really just to go back and be able to look at some evidence at what needs done. So it's just a tool to assist that.
Do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2023-27 is approved. Next one up be the resolution 2023-28, conservation lease agreement Burns. Property tax parcel 17-4-9, Halfmoon Township. Possible action.
If you remember early in the year, I don't remember the exact month, around March maybe, you approved a subdivision for Marlon and Patty Burns. Because they were in the open space preservation program, new leases need drawn up due to that subdivision because some of the land was acquired by a different owner. They were with the attorney for a while. After some polishing up, they are now ready for approval. All three are related. 16, 17, and 18 on the agenda are all related to that subdivision.
So this is just the formal process of
Yeah.
finalizing the,
I want to note that all these properties were in the township's open space preservation program. They will remain in the township's open space preservation program, but the owners, in some cases, are changing. So a different group of people has taken over at least one of the large tracts. It's going to be farmed, but it's just going from one farmer to another farmer. But it's still gonna be in the open space preservation.
Correct, there will be an agreement. Every time ownership changes, a lease agreement is drawn up. This just had a little special flair to it because of the subdivision. That's why the attorneys had to take a look at it.
So will we vote on each one of these?
Yeah, we're gonna do each one separately.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion to approve 2023-28, which is the 170409 property?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Next up, relative to the burns, this would be 170409D. Okay, moved. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And last up, 2023-30, conservation lease agreement. This is with the Weavers, who's taken over one of the large tracts for agricultural purposes. Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Got all that, Brett?
Oh, yeah, yep, we're good. That's easy.
Next up on the list, Center Region Planning Agency, local planning, possible action. Brett, if you want to just discuss what's happening with it and what some of the other townships are doing
Yeah.
briefly so the public's aware.
So, Center Region has run into an issue where they're lacking local planners. They just had their senior planner, Mark Bogle, I'm sure it's been in the paper, most of you have seen and heard that he's moved on to be Harris Township's new manager. That currently leaves one planner in the entire department other than Jim May, who is the director.
Who's retiring?
Who is
retiring
retiring in November, correct. So they met, Jim May, Eric Nornberg met with the municipal managers as well as Amy to discuss where they saw the planning agency going in the future. What that led to is basically an agreement where they wanted the Amy and the municipal managers to come back to their townships and ask the boards where they foresee them going in the future. Patton has already discussed the issue. They have elected to decrease their percentage of service for 2024 and then pull from local planning in 2025 while remaining in regional planning. Harris Township has elected to basically off the record say that's where they're leaning, but they wanted to give Mark Bogle time to get his feet wet before officially announcing something in 2024. So before you tonight, the board basically has to decide. They have three options. We can remain as is, and in 2024, say we want 33% of a local planner's time, which will cost the township $58,071. We can elect to reduce that percentage of time from 33% to a new percentage of our choice, and then remain to give them, continue to give COG time to replace our planner. Or the option is to follow suit with Patton and Harris and reduce the percentage for 2024 and let them know we will no longer want local planning services in 2025.
Just to add, the borough and Ferguson and I believe College
Correct.
are currently not participating.
Not in local planning,
In
correct.
local
They
planning.
all belong to regional, but not
Right.
local. They have their own.
And this,
planners.
what we're talking about is local planning.
Correct. This is only local planning.
And does staff have a recommendation on any adjustments to the percentage from 33 down? I think
We did look at the time. 33% of the time is about the equivalent to 11 to 12 hours a week. We have not seen a subdivision this year at all. If it was not for the zoning Saldo rewrite to the ordinances we were doing, we wouldn't actually have had a use for a local planner at the time. So from studying the use of what we can tell over the past few years, Amy and I feel comfortable if the board would be interested in reducing to 15%, which is an equivalent of an average of 5 hours a week. How COG likes to run it is when they say 5, they don't really mean 5. It could be 20 one week, not even use them the next. It really is on workload.
it's an average.
Right, it's an average, and for now, we do not have any subdivisions even on our potential plate. There are some whispers, but nothing formal. For now, if one would come in these last 3 months, Jim May is going to do his best to help out. If it happens after he retires, we will have to rely on Patton Township's planner.
You know, the thing they've always done best at COG was the planning office, and it got let go.
Historically, they have had a strong planning office, yes.
So we're looking for a motion.
One of you will have to make a motion of one of those three options, because Jim May did request an answer as soon as possible, so if we do reduce, it can be considered in their budget.
I would make a motion to adopt option 3 and reduce the level for 2024 to 15%. And option 3 means that we pull out of local planning after 2024. Is that correct?
That is correct. You would give them notice that in 2025, you will no longer have local planning services.
Now, the next, of course, the question is going to be, if we pull out of local planning, what would we do? The problem is, and I was at the budget meeting today,
Mhm.
and the whole issue of this, the planning department was discussed. I don't think they're gonna do the best they can to hire people, but that's been a problem for years. And this is continuing to get worse, and
Correct.
that's why I think Patton Township decided to pull out. And we need to be seeking an alternative to the local planning in order to have a planner available beyond 2024.
Mhm.
But as it stands, we have to give them a year's notice to pull out of any aspect of the planning. Is that correct?
Correct. Which would also in turn give you a year to find a service.
And there are services out there.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that's my motion.
Option 2 is basically the same thing, except that if they do fill the positions,
We
we
would,
can stay with them.
correct.
And they're still letting us out to pursue something else in 2025. We don't have to stay for another year after that, correct?
That's how it's stated. However, as far as I know, and I don't know because this is Amy's memo, I'm not sure if that's phrased correctly. I think it more means, number 2 more means that if they do find someone, we'll just stay with them and we will not pull out.
Right.
If they would find us a planner in 2025, we will just continue with them. Where 3's more an official, we're leaving. There's really the only difference between 2 and 3.
Because if they don't find one, then we can still leave. With
If you
option 2.
if you select 3, 2, like I said, 2's not phrased the way it should be. Option 2 was that we reduce the percentage and then continue to allow them to look in hopes to find one. And I think they have a plan to definitely have a planner by 2025.
But that's been their plan. And the issue is that they can't find people. And if we delay that, it's another year of, stumbling or, stumbling through a year, having, having people fill in as planners. And that I think is a risk. Okay, the other thing is that our cost for local planning is significant. And yet we have to pay that upfront cost. I hear things like credits and refunds if we don't use all the planning time that we basically subscribe for. But we're not even sure how that works. And that was also discussed in the budget meeting today, and it was not clear even to other townships how it's actually not a refund in most cases, it's a credit. So if you're not participating, it's not clear as to how that goes from being a credit to a refund. So I think there are some serious risks and exposures here that we need to really consider.
I'm gonna hold you up there. Ron has a motion on the floor to go with option 3. We really ought to have a discussion after we get a second. We have a second.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, now we go back to discussion.
I'm pretty much done. I just want to clarify, it's more of an issue than people think. We could just stay with them. I mean, yeah, they do a good job when they have people to do it. And that's the key issue.
Option 2, you do run the risk of if they could not fill the position by 2025, you would have to wait till 2026.
Right.
There is a risk there, yes.
And things can happen where we need a planner. We need someone reliable. If we have to employ, there are companies that do this.
Yes. there's definitely-
And if we can employ them on an hourly basis,
Mhm.
it could be less expensive, but the fact is, we would have someone here to do the planning.
Right, it would run similar to how the zoning services worked when we contracted with Patton. We had an employee for years, a zoning officer employee, then it switched to a contracted service with Patton, and when they're only using them quarter of hours, fraction of hours, it saves money in the long run.
And it's not as though we don't want, we don't like the planning that Center Region has done for us. We do. But it's just a matter of having them available, having somebody to actually do it. And they have not, in my opinion, demonstrated that they're definitely going to have someone even next year. You know, so, but we're stuck. We're in a contract where we're with them next year. So we may have to limp through the year, but I don't think we should continue to do that. I think we should do what, you know, and the other municipalities within the center region are also moving away from it. So, and I'm beginning to understand better why. So I think option 3 is a better option.
I gotta say, this is the third time that the planning office has had a meltdown that I've known of since about 1987. Apparently this happens every so many years over there. They just seem to get rid of everybody and to get all new people. And for the most part, they're usually good. The problem is whenever we get down here to the bottom, like we are now, I'm not saying their planner isn't good, but that planner is gonna have a life stretched out of them. And I know the cog moves slow when it comes to hiring people, at least for planners anyhow. And I'm afraid that, you know, this township was growing like at a tremendous rate. We went from 810 people in 1980 to 1620 in 1990 to like 2,300 in 2000. But in the last 10 years, we've only added 137 people to this township. I think that's what the number is from the census.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, it's real close to that, plus or minus 2. Got 137 people. Our open space program has basically put a halt on land development in this community. I mean, it's not going anywhere, at least that I can see that it's going anywhere. I don't know that we need the planning services we once needed. The pressure's off. I'm not saying we don't go back and redo our ordinances and do some upgrades, but I don't see a need to hire somebody for a bunch of time.
Until we are, I do know that Jim May spoke to that a little bit and said that until we would have our own senior planner from COG, they're unable to help with our ordinance rewrite, so they're on hold until we get.
Well, I was gonna say, last time they had a meltdown, and we didn't get the best of the best for planning services for a while. I gotta say that Corey Relk and Mark Bogle have both been fantastic and outstanding. And you know, very, very happy with their services, but there's nobody over there anymore.
And by reducing the percentage for 2024, that also allows us more flexibility should we need.
We can bring
someone
in a
that we could-
specialist planner if
Right.
we want to from someplace else.
We can't do that if we're committed to them solely, and they don't have the people to provide the hours that we need. I mean, it comes down to having the planners available, and they just don't have them.
I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Well, once they get their wages better to where they should be, then they'll have a better, because they've been advertising for Corey's position for well over a year. They just haven't been able to offer the salaries that are competitive. So,
That's actually, but the market is for urban planning. And that was discussed at length today as well in the budget meeting by Jim May. That because of the fact that most of the people who are educated in that field are geared toward urban planning. And so they gravitate to the metropolitan area, large metropolitan areas, which is also where the money is. So.
Well, let's call for the question. All those in favor of making the change to option 3 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. You can, let Mr. Norberg hear the happy news. Okay, next thing up, Municipal Lane Park tree removal quote. I think that's Mr. Beck.
Sure, all right, there it is. All right, so basically I'm just bringing this back from last meeting. We received a written quote back for $2,400 to remove the pine tree out of the parking lot. So that's just bringing it back for discussion.
What all they doing?
So
They
this
dropping
will
a tree
be-
and cutting it up, or they just?
Yep, drop the tree, cutting it up, I mean, it's full cleanup. And then in this instance, I'll dig the stump out because it is parking area. I would remove it so it doesn't rot and cause us problems later, so.
But it's also, the roots are, I mean, I love trees, but the roots are tearing up the,
Yeah, they're spreading out and, you know, starting to get a little close to some structures and things going on through there and
that's a big tree.
causing tripping hazards, so, I mean, this is one of the phases of many things that we'll try to get through and,
Are they taking the chips, or are they leaving that here?
nope, they'll take it all with them.
Everything goes.
That's what I wanted to make sure is everything will be clean.
Good.
Anybody want to make a motion to appoint the Dock and Balls Tree Service?
Move to approve that.
I hear a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
What was the price on that?
2,400 is the crew to come in.
They're insured and bonded and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and he has a bucket truck tall enough to get in and take care
They're
of those.
professionals.
Yes, yes.
He does a lot of work for the borough, and he does good work.
He's done work here before and it's clean and he takes care of things, so.
Next up, gypsy moth spraying discussion. Spongy moth for those who are sensitive. The bugs are back.
Yeah, so we've received a lot of calls from citizens asking if the township had any plans. Through that, staff contacted the county, and they also acknowledged they were receiving a lot of complaints. However, unlike last time, for now, they are not in the process of overseeing the project like they did in the mid to late 2000s. So that leaves the township with a few options based on that. We could handle the situation by the township or the individuals footing the bill. We could tell them we're kind of out of it. You could use the blocks in the neighborhoods, similar to how they did last year. We can reapproach the county with it becoming more of a multi-municipal problem to see if they're willing to change their stance. Or we can try to approach the surrounding municipalities to attempt to work regionally in one contract. I do know that Patton Township at least had their eggs counted and noticed, especially at the western end of Patton, which would mean our eastern end, they do have an abundance of eggs. However, in Halfmoon's case, one thing that is at least a little bit good for us is a bulk of that line is field or game lands. And they take care of their own trees in the game lands. So I'm not saying we definitely still have the problem, but I think we're at least, for now, not as bad as some. So the board's really deciding if they want to foot the bill where staff has to do research prior to budget time, or if they're not interested at this time.
I'm gonna harken back to the early 1990s in Halfmoon Township. I remember sitting in a manager's meeting with the other townships. Everybody was pushing for spray, and I think Halfmoon was the only one that did not spray. That virus that the gypsy moth carries naturally in its system when it overpopulates, ever see them all shriveled up hanging on a tree?
Wipe it out.
That's what kills them. And it spreads like wildfire. If you spray, you shut that off and that virus never activates. Patton Township was spraying for gypsy moths years after there were none out here. Or so few you wouldn't even notice. So I'm more of a let nature take its course. It has never been as bad as it was in 1980 and 81. I think 80 and 81 were maybe it was 81 and 82, that we really got hammered. And, you know, you'd see them all over your cars. They just denuded all the trees. But I don't think it's gonna get that bad. And who wants to spray chemicals around, you know?
Well,
It's in
and
the worst
DCNR did kind of testify that Center County was marked clear in 2020. However, they think the last 2 to 3 dry springs may have allowed for this to come back. And at the same time, if the weather changes another way, They may disappear on their own too. They're honestly not sure, which leaves us not sure.
Anybody want to make a motion one way or another, let it drop?
I would move that we keep in touch with the county to see what their plans are in the future, and then maybe make a decision or just a recommendation to the public on, you know, people getting together to make, to do some spraying. I mean, other than that, I'd say we would take no formal action on our own.
Just on mute, Cheryl.
You making that a motion or just a suggestion?
I would move that we leave it alone for now, I guess.
Okay,
And then contact the county to see what they'd be willing to do next year,
all right.
We do have a question on two.
okay? Sorry.
Hi, this is Cheryl Barr. Thank you. I wanted to listen to this tonight because I live on the corner of Charlotte and Lutz Lane, and we had a serious problem. I put it out on Springstown Neighbors. I've had 20 people just in my area request a service. So I have reached out to helicopter applicators, and they're definitely interested in spraying us. We're all willing to pay it because you couldn't sit outside this year. You couldn't have picnics. It was terrible. Yes, I live in an area where there are trees everywhere. The tree damage is obvious. So I guess I just want to know how soon a decision might be made on this, because I do have to reach back out to helicopter applicators to set this up for all of us.
All right, well, I will tell you,
I'm asking.
there's a motion on the floor
Go
for the
ahead.
township, just to see what the county's coming up with. We're not gonna do anything officially, but you're always welcome to
Yeah.
contact the applicators and do it yourselves.
Yep, okay, thank you,
Yep. Okay, motion, do I hear a second?
idiots.
Thank you very much. I have 10 acres of woods, and there's not hardly a gypsy moth anywhere. I haven't even seen any on it.
We had them, we're just behind, we're on Toe Hill, and they were pretty bad up there. this
Apparently,
year.
there's nothing on the ridge,
Yeah,
but
our little patch of woods in the back of our place, we had a lot of gypsy moths this year, and they dropped their stuff. I'll call it stuff. And, but I did notice that they all died off. They were all hanging on the trees, shriveled up and dead.
yeah, then the virus is hitting them, and you probably won't see them next year, or much.
They still made a mess.
It does make a mess, yeah.
This has been a hot spot in past years. I mean, unbelievable, because I went up there and sprayed the place using a pressure sprayer that would take it up about 60, 70 feet. And we used liquid 7.
Yep.
And I mean, it was bad.
Just depends on where you live, apparently,
Yeah, we don't have any. I mean, none.
right now.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't have any, and I didn't spray anything, so.
yeah.
All right, motion on the floor.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion by the board? Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, township reports. Does anybody have any question for the treasurer, the secretary, or the public works department?
The only thing I will announce under the secretary report, which I already announced, is that Patton did vote last night to no longer contract their zoning officer services with us effective December 31st, 2023. Knowing that, staff began to reach out to a few services. We did hear back from one. It's actually JHA Companies, who was the company that helped us with the park issue. They're gonna get a quote back, depending upon how that goes. We may have a couple more, and we'll just see who's interested and who's not, yep.
Good.
See what happens. All right, and committee reports are available online. And that brings us down to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Well, I had sent Amy an email. I didn't realize she wasn't going to be here tonight.
We
But
didn't either.
I just, if you have time and if you have access to a computer, I would like to ask the board to look at the Highlands, you know, the neighborhood in State College. There's a Highlands Association. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is working on the belonging to Halfmoon Township. The Highlands Association has a very good website, and what I would like to do is build a website for, I know we have Halfmoon Township neighbors and things, but the Highlands website has the history of the township on it, and people can post, they have pictures of their pets, and they have community events. And I was thinking, if we had a website like that and just start small and build it, I thought maybe we could start out on people's pets, ask people to send me pictures of their pets, and then that website is linked to the township website, and just start building a sense of belonging in the community, or enhancing that. Then when we have, I know we have a group that's working on Heritage Days, and this would just be a vehicle to do something like that. So I had sent Amy the link, because I wanted to take you through it and show it to you tonight, but that's not gonna happen. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment and looking at the Highlands website, and you have to kind of go off to the side. Maybe I'll try this again later and send you exact directions on how to find it, but I'm interested in building a website for our community that would be linked to the Halfmoon Township page, that would be vetted.
You're saying similar to the Highlands?
Yeah, similar to the Highlands, but a vetted, not everybody could post on it. They would go through me or somebody else that the board approves of to build a website that reflects the unique character of Halfmoon Township. So
Sounds interesting.
that's all. And I'll send you, well, I sent Amy the link, so maybe you can find it that way.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Oh, wait.
Got a question?
Yeah, please.
I got something. October 9th of this year is National Indigenous Peoples' Day in the US and Canada. It's a day to reflect on and recognize the impact Native people have had on our culture. The people that hunted and traveled through Halfmoon Township were people the European settlers called the Delaware. Penn State University has a Native and Indigenous Studies program and an active student organization that hosts a large national powwow every spring in Center County. While we might only reflect on another culture when we see a place name like Nittany or Half Moon, we have to remember that these people are here today and still a part of our society. Native people make up the largest percentage of our military population and suffer with the highest percentage of people living without water or in poverty, and the highest percentage of many diseases. I thought this was just something to think about next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming.